Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, Drew Carter, former wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. He also went to Ohio State. I've run through.
National champion.
Can't mock you anymore. So congratulations, by the way. ESPN out with a list of the top 100 college football players. You guys have guys at 1 and 2. Yeah.
Hey, not a bad day to be a Buckeye.
One on offense, one on defense. Pretty impressive. Okay, so Chip Kelly, who I think is clearly he's a strange fella, and I think that has more to do with the story that we're about to bring you than anything. But also would appear to be a pretty talented coach. Right. 10 wins each of his first 2 seasons in Philadelphia. But a lot of roster overhaul, including jettisoning some very talented players who are black. And depending on whose opinion you believe here, that may have played a role, although I'm not buying it. But let's get to it. DeSean Jackson traded to Washington. LeSean McCoy traded for Alonso, sent to the Bills. Jeremy Maclin got a big contract from Kansas City, not re-signed. And Boykin just traded a cornerback who graded out, I think on Pro Football Focus, as the number 21 cornerback in the league. He was a slot corner, but just sent to the Steelers for a 5th-round draft choice. So here's what Boykin, who's now happy to be in Pittsburgh, but here's what he said about being dealt from the Eagles to the Steelers. I said that Kelly, was uncomfortable with men of our culture. I'm not saying he's a racist at all. When you're a player, you want to be able to relate to your coach outside of football. When you're not talking football scheme, I want to be able to sit there and talk to you about whatever. There were times he just wouldn't talk to people. You would walk down the hallway, he wouldn't say anything to you. And I don't know what that is. I'm not saying he's a racist in any way. As a player, I wanted to be able to relate to my coach a little bit better, and I felt a lot of guys in the locker room feel the same way. Of course, when you're in the organization, you're not going to voice your opinion. I've always been a guy of honesty. You're honest with me, I'll be honest with you. I felt that honesty wasn't there all the time. That's Brandon Boykin. Now, that is his second comment about Kelly. His initial comment suggested that he did think Kelly was getting rid of the black players because they were black. Then he backed off with that, and I was pleased to see that because I don't think it really holds up. But you tell me, what are your thoughts?
I don't think Chip's racist, but I do think when smoke, there's fire. I think there's some sort of thing where it doesn't matter if the coach is white or black. It's just players coach. Like, you can relate to a coach. And I think Chip's more of like, I guess you could say more of like a numbers guy, or like, he's very technical, he's very schematic, but he can't really sit down and talk to a player, which myself personally love when a coach comes to me and like puts his hand on the shoulders, like, what's up? Like, how, like, it doesn't matter if you're a position coach or anybody. It could just be somebody that you could just be like, yeah, coach, my wife's pregnant or something. You just talk to them. But if you're walking through the hallway, and I've dealt with coaches like that where they walk through and they just put their head down like you're just not even there, you kind of get pulled back and you almost feel like, what's the problem? Like, we work together every day and you can't even speak to me in the hallway. Is it really that like crucial that you can't even have a relationship with your teammates or your players off the field? You just tell them what to do on the field, and then you walk by them in the locker room and you're not even relatable.
Chip Kelly is clearly does it Chip Kelly's way, and I think that's what we're seeing here. And because, of course, look, the fact of the matter is, I saw one summation of all this. I mean, as you might imagine, all of these black players who have been jettisoned were replaced by black players for the most part. There's not, so that doesn't really stand up. But earlier, now, LeSean McCoy dealt in this offseason after finishing, I think, 3rd in the league in rushing last year after an outstanding season in 2013. Here's what LeSean McCoy had to say about Coach Kelly. Our relationship was never great. I feel like I always respected him as a coach. I think that's the way he runs the team. He wants full control. See how fast he got rid of all the good players, especially all the good black players. He got rid of them the fastest. That's the truth. There's a reason. It's hard to explain with him, but there's a reason he got rid of all the black players, the good ones like that. That was LeSean McCoy. Trey Thomas, who played offensive line for the Eagles and then became I think a coaching intern, said something similar. Here's Thomas. One of the things that you're seeing right now, and these are from the things you heard from the locker room from different players, is that they feel like there's a hint of racism. All of this presumably starts to go back from the horrible things that Riley Cooper said and was caught saying a couple of years ago, and Kelly did not do what he could have done, which is just say, and I don't want a distraction like that, I release him. Or trade him somewhere. But he kept him. He was part of the rotation. significantly. Well, here's what Coach Kelly had to say about the Riley Cooper situation, which is where many thinks this came from. He said, this is recently, I think Riley made a mistake. That's part of it. We all backed him. Michael Vick backed him. Jason Avant backed him. I think that's part of being in an organization and on a team. I look at that as a specific incident where he, meaning Cooper, was 100% wrong. Those are things that he should never have said. I hope he learned his lesson. I think he regrets what he did say that day, every single day. I see that in him. Do I regret what I did in terms of how we handled Riley? No, I don't. And it is true that Vic, who was the starting quarterback at that time, and Jason Avant, who was apparently Cooper's closest friend on the team, obviously both black players, they had Riley Cooper's back.
Right. And I think, I mean, people are allowed, second chances. Michael Vick can speak, he's the biggest second chance. Nobody's really talking about him now at all. And it was the biggest story for years.
That's right.
So it's kind of like, I mean, it's tough, but it's just weird when it's like the players that have already left the team that have said stuff, and it's like you said with the players, they replace them with black players, but it's almost where I feel like sometimes it's like the players that have a voice that will speak up and say something, and it doesn't matter if black or white, but I'm just saying it's kind of like coaches don't want to, like you said, Chip Kelly runs a tight ship and he does it his way. So all of a sudden, if somebody kind of ruffles his feather, I feel like he's kind of like, oh, I'm going to ship him off. But I don't know why it's always the most popular black player, and I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not saying he is or not, but it's just always it's weird where it's like, why all these guys keep getting shipped off, and you get a guy to come in, and it's like the players that just put their head down and go to work every day and collect a check. And they're not going to ruffle feathers. So it's just weird to me.
I think it is weird. And what's clear, if you believe what Trey Thomas said, is that true or not, Kelly has to probably deal with this,
right?
And be like, hey, I don't know, because look, DeSean Jackson is a pain in the ass,
right.
And any decision to get rid of DeSean Jackson is so to me, being a former Washington fan, I was like, of course DeSean Jackson's coming to Washington.
Right.
Of course that's what's going to happen. Jeremy Maclin was about to get a ton of money, and I don't know that the Eagles, that was the right. It seemed like a sound decision for that. Getting Alonzo, even coming off his injury, for McCoy, and then saying, based on the attack that I want to run, adding DeMarco Murray to a huge contract and Ryan Matthews from San Diego to go with Sproles. It's not like I think that he thinks I didn't want to take LeSean McCoy to a position where we were going to split carries with him. I think he thought that's going to be a pain in the ass.
Right. I think you're right, because matter of fact, it's just the fact of these guys it fits the system, and right now he's in the middle of this change or whatever. So when it finally ends, this season, into this season or into next season, we're going to see the results. Either it's going to be you're going to be like, he's a genius.
That's right.
Or he's just look at all the moves he did, and he's out of control.
And it's going to have less to do with Jeremy Maclin's decision and LeSean McCoy's decision, more to do with Sam Bradford.
And I just always wonder too, there's not been any outspoken old Oregon players though. I just wonder why no guy you know what I'm saying, the guys from Oregon, nobody's talking oh, he did the same thing in Oregon. It's nothing where it's ongoing. All of a sudden it just happened, and these Philadelphia players.
The sample size here is too small. LeSean McCoy and Brandon Boykin and Jeremy Maclin and DeSean Jackson.
All these guys,
that does not make a story yet, because elite players change teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm waiting for something in-house where it's people, things start stirring. Everybody's disgruntled players that are actually on the team, and they're like, "Yo, I can't play for this guy."
This guy had he's an NFL coach. He was married. Nobody knew about it. They're divorced, but he had a secret ex-wife. Nobody knew about it. They never talk about it. He's collecting players' urine every day.
Yeah.
Every day, so that he can measure how their sleep is, and and how much water they're taking.
Yeah.
And everybody going back to his days in New Hampshire, hey, I like Chip, but he's going to rub you the wrong way sometimes. So he is not, and he says, look, man, these guys have they have specific work to do. We have specific work in the off season. We only have 4 hours a day with them. I got no time to chat.
Right.
He's not going to give you what you want. You're going to have to get that from your position coach.
Yeah,
so,
which is kind of odd to me still. Because I was with John Fox, and Fox, he's done pretty well in the league, and he was the coolest coach ever. He would just talk to you, and he'd be not like it doesn't take a lot. It takes 2 minutes to sit there and say something to somebody. It's not like you're so focused and so that you can't even talk to the player. I'm like, come on, man.
I suspect that Chip Kelly's issues as a coach, or Chip Kelly's issue in life.
In life. He's not a very social person, probably.
Right, and that's clear. He's not a very social person. When he took over at Oregon, when he got the job, when he was elevated from offensive coordinator at Oregon to the head coaching position, he asked the AD, Mike Bellotti, to continue to talk to boosters. He
don't like doing it.
He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it.
All he wants to do is coach. I mean, I get it, but
Right.
there's things that come with the coaching
But
too.
you cannot, you run a serious risk if you have a team, if it's true, if you got a team where the black guys on the team feel alienated from the coach,
Right.
that's potentially a huge problem, whether they should or not.
Right.
If they do, then
Right.
you got to
Especially
deal
when the
with it.
team's like 75% black, so you're like, oh boy, this
Yeah.
is not going to be.
That said, I like, I like that he's different. I like that he tests
I like
the
it.
urine
Yeah,
every day.
yeah,
You know
I'm not
what?
mad at that. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be. I think, like you said, we're waiting to see right now. If it happens at the end, everybody's gonna be like, oh, he's a genius.
Yeah, he can't really afford a lot more. But and to your point, those position coaches are going to have to be the put your arm around you, sit down, talk about Game of Thrones. Chip Kelly's not talking about Game of Thrones.
He'll walk right by you.
All right, Drew. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man.